Hello guys, welcome back to this channel. In this video we are going to talk about authentication in Blazor Web Assembly project, that is the client side, using individual accounts. In the previous video that I did, I also talked about introduction to authentication in the client side, that's the client side Blazor, that is WebAssembly. And with that, we're able to generate our classes and our service folders and etc. Okay, by this we're gonna use what Microsoft or any framework has defaultly for us. So in this time round, when creating projects, we're going to select an individual account, and this is going to create everything what we did in the previous video. This is going to create the whole thing at once for us. Now in the previous video we took it down and we broke it up into pieces and we brought them together. But with this, Microsoft has it at once, so we're going to use that, and we need not to type or pass in any code at all. It's going to create for us. Before you move on to that practical, if you want to understand what authentication in the client side, that's the Blazor Web Assembly, you can check up the previous video. I have the description, I have the link over here, so you can just click on that, then you can just go through that video, okay? And it's going to actually help you to know the basics of creating authentication for WebAssembly project. Before we dive into this, let's understand what authentication is and how do you do it in this Blazor. So authentication and authorization, they are two fundamental functions in most applications today. Now, until recently, it wasn't clear how to best achieve these functions in Blazor applications. So by the release of ASP.NET Core, that's the 3 and the preview of 6, and as I speak you have the 7, things have now changed. Now it is very easy to do it. So I'm going to show you how to create a new, that is a server-side Blazor application with authentication enabled. Okay, so that is what you're going to use the individual account. If you want to know the various steps involved, you can check the previous video, that is authentication in Blazor Web Assembly, or the topic for that is introduction to authentication with server side. Now that is a client side instead, client side Blazor using Web API and ASP.NET Core identity. I have the description linked beneath, so you can just check on that. For that, we did ourselves, and we created authentication, installed some packages, and now creating our classes, and moving on. We did a lot to set up the authentication for us. And what we did, you can see we have the same thing as what you can see from the screen. So I can now log out and log in again. I can now check I'm going to be authenticated. If I'm not registered, I can't log in. Okay, so that's authentication that we're talking about, and I talked about that in that previous video, so you can check this out. Now once you have this authentication, first of all, let's understand what authentication is. Now authentication is a process of determining if someone is who they claim to be. So this can be done in many different ways, but the most common way for web applications is by using the username and that is a password check. So the username could be your email, because that's a unique email that each and everyone has, and also the password as well. So if you can actually have another example is when you go to an ATM, like we say, we have your card and your PIN number. So now you pass in your card, pinch your PIN number, and it's going to authenticate you to see is that the one, or is that you who you claim you are? Is that you? Then if yes, then it has to authorize that. For now, we are talking about the authentication. So authorization also is going to be another topic that we're going to talk about and building up this video as well. So let's focus on authentication by having a user registration and user login. That is what we call about authentication. Now if I decide to assign roles or policy based, that is what we know as authorization. So if I am authenticated now what service can I see? Which forms can I have the ability or the authority to see? That is what I term as a role. So role based, we haven't talked about that. Talk about that maybe later on, but for now how do you create registration and how do you log in. That is what we call as authentication. Okay, so as I said earlier on, in that previous video that I recorded, I have the various steps by creating our JSON web token, passing it to the header and of a request, then send it through that the HTTP client and etc. So you can check that one out. But this is a bulk one that was introduced by Microsoft, and that's the .NET framework. And here we need not to pass in any code at all. We just have to click, and we are done. Okay, so at the end of this video, we must also have the same thing. As you can see from here, we must have, as soon as I log in, hello, then you have your email here as a username, and I can have a logout as well. So if I click on this logout, it's going to take it off, and you can see processing logout. So I can now log out, and now here it's going to see, so I have to apply migration here to create a database as well. Okay, so let's get going by doing this. Now the very first thing that I can do here is to create a Blazor Web Assembly project. So as you can see, now I haven't applied the migration, so because I have register and login. If I click on register, because I have a form here, now I am still in there and I can still log out. Now if I click on login, I'm going to have a form to display. So as you can see from here, I have hello world, and I can see register and login. So login, I'm going to give up a form here. It's supposed to be a form. So when we are done, I'm going to have the same thing, the form over there. And now if I click on register, I'm also going to have a form here to register as well. Okay, so let's get going. And this is going to be a simple video because we're going to use an inbuilt one already. So you know to provide everything as well. So let's create a Blazor Web Assembly project. So as you can see from here, click on the file launch of Visual Studio 2022 and click on file, maybe new, and now Blazor Web Assembly app. If you want to search it over here from the template, you can just scroll down. Now this is Blazor server app. So Blazor Web Assembly project. Then you can click on next. Okay. Now this, what I'm doing here is you can use both for this Blazor server, but I think I have to create a video for this Blazor server as well. So maybe when I'm done, I'll try to create an application or another video for authentication in Blazor server app. Okay, so here we are using the Blazor Web Assembly app. Now click on next. Now here let's give it a name as this is a default authentication. So default auth, and down this is the location and the solution name. Click on next. Now as I record this video, the current version of the .NET framework is 7.0, so that's what you can see over here. If I click on this lockdown, you see I have the list here 5 up to 7, but you know I go for 7 because that is the standard and the stable one. So now here is the case. Now if I click on this, it is saying that the authentication method to be used in the application. Now I click on this drop down, you see we have individual account. That is what we want to use. So here, as soon as you click individual account, it has everything in bulk. Okay, so what you have to do here is apply migration, and that's going to be all. You can have access to login and registration. This is going to be the simplest one. Now click on create. So let's click on create. So we wait once the application gets created. So as you can see, creating a project. So let's wait while the project is getting created. So you can see it is done now, and you can see we have default client, auth client. So you can close this and we can close that. Now if you read this, it is saying that this code includes a dependency of what? This identity server. Now there's an open source product with a reciprocal license agreement. Now we don't want to just read all these things, we can just close this up, and let's try to check. So let's go for Solution Explorer, and we can see that here. So click on views and now choose Solution Explorer, that is over here, first one. So you can see that we have 3 projects included. We have the shared project, the API, the web, that's the client project, API for the server, and you can see we have a class library as the shared project. So you can see we have 3 projects joined together as a Blazor Web Assembly. Now if I expand this shared project, you see I have nothing. This is the default one that I have, default class, that's the weather forecast. This is the default one that I have over here. Now if I go to the server app, if I expand the server app, you can see let's go to the program.cs file for the registration. Now we see we have our connection string set up over here, and we see we have our connection being registered by using the DB context, and that is the class name application DB context. Okay, and we are using an SQL server. This is the connection name as indicated over here. Now when it comes to the next one, we see we are using a default identity, and now we create a new. This is it. We don't create it, but it is created already. That's application user. Currently this app here, it is empty. But in case you want to add any parameter in its passing, maybe you want to add name, you want to add maybe different thing which is not included in the default one, you can pass it there to the application user. Okay, then sign in requirement, we pass in confirm account is copied through, so you want the user to confirm account. Now if you come to this side, we see we have identity framework store, then we pass in this connection. Now next you see we have identity server, and you can see we have an add.api authorization. So the application user, the identity application DB context. Now aside from that, you see we are adding JWT, that's a JSON web token for authentication. Okay, then when it comes to down here, we are using identity server and authorization. So we're going to use identity server over here, then authorization. Now once you have this, let's save this. Now you see we haven't typed anything yet. Let's try to run application and see what we have now. So click on this, but before that, let's see again. The app settings contains the connection string as indicated here, and when you go to models, that's where we have the application user. You see this is empty. It is inheriting from what is identity user. This identity user has its own tables that we are going to generate in the application DB context. So you can specify the one that you want to override, or any additional columns that you want to set up and pass them over here. But for now, we maintain what we have here. Now let's see, from our data we have a migration and our application DB context file, as you can see from here, and this is our migration, and this is inheriting from application, that's the API authorization DB context, we pass in the application user. Now when you go to controller, we have this over here, and that is what is using to generate the client request parameters for us and the route. Okay, so that is it. Now this area contains the identity, and this identity contains the shared folder, that's the login partial. So where we have our login over here, as you can see from this, we have our login. Okay, so let's save this application and let's try to run this. So click on this button to run the application. So let's wait while it is running. It is building together to run the application. Then you're going to see, you're going to have a nice interface, and here you have to perform migration to get a database created, and now we can get going and log in. So here you can see that we need not to pass everything. Now the application user, application DB context, and the controller was created automatically as soon as we selected individual account. Okay, so instead of going through the first one, you can now use this to skip all these things. But I suggest we go for the one that you can actually implement yourself, and know, because with this, it is already, you don't know what it came by, so it is very difficult to override or customize this. But why don't you go for the first one, whereby you can customize it yourself? So by this, I just want to introduce you to this so you can know what is actually happening here. When you use the individual account, what you can also have access to. So you can see we have a default auth, that is a project. Now it is now loading. So authorization, that's authorizing. Now where it is coming from? When we go to Solution Explorer, now let's go to the app settings inside the client project. So expand that and then click on app settings. Now we see we have not authorized, and if it's not authorized, what are we doing? We want to redirect the user to login. Okay, so that's an if it is not authorized, and that's what you see over here. So if it's not authorized, you have to redirect the user to login. Now login here, it is found, there's a login partial, and that is found in the pages, and it is found here. When you go to area in the server, you can see we have a login partial over there. Actually, for registration, you can't see it now. If you want to see this, then unless you add a scaffolded items, and maybe this is going to be a next time we're going to talk about that. How do you customize the login that you actually want? Okay, but for now, let's maintain the default one we have, and let's see. So once we have application loaded now, let's see. Now that is, you can see we have register and we have login. Okay, so now let's try to register. So click on this to register. Now it's checking the state, and you can see it is calling this authentication, and we have that for registration. So it is demanding email, password, and confirm password. So let's try to pass in this. So test@test.com, and let's pass in maybe admin at 123. So the same thing, admin at 123, and let's register. So you can see registration, we need to apply migration, because this is the database name, so we need to apply migration, so we can just create a database for us. So what you have to do here is just click. So let's click on that. Like we see, it is applying the migration. So migration applied. So try refreshing the page. Now let's see. So let's go to our project over here, and let's click on SQL Server Object Explorer, and let's refresh this. If you're not finding this, go to views, and as you can see, it's over here, SQL Server Object. You must find it somewhere. That is it. And now the database or the server name is my SS. That's the MySQL server over here. So click on it, open it, and now how can we identify the name? Let's go to the app settings.json, and that is what you can see over here, app settings.json in our server project. So let's app settings.json over here, and the name of our database is asp.net-default-auth.server, right? So that's the database name. Let's check it out here. So asp.net default server. So that's the database name. Click on this or expand this node, expand tables, and you can see you're going to generate a list of tables for us by the identity. So let's say it has a user identity. Now what you will need here is a dbo.asp.net user. So right click on this, and I click on view data. Okay, so with this view data, it's going to just open up the tables, and we can now create it over there. We can see the data that we just pass in from the UI. So let's wait while it is opening. So mine is taking a little bit of time, but let's be patient. So while it is loading. All right, so we have this here. Now let's see. So do you have any details here? No, we don't. Okay, so you see we have ID, username, that's and etc. So if you want to actually pass in full name, that's why you need to specify that in the application user. Okay, so let's get going again and see what we can actually do here. So with this, now let's see if you can actually have the next one is login. Let's open this and see. Alright, so let's try to register that again. So once it has finished, let's refresh. So continue on. Okay, so we have registered. Now let's check it and refresh ASP.NET user. So let's refresh this and see what we're gonna have now. Alright, so you can see we have the details over here. Okay, so as you can see, we need to confirm that, because we said we want to confirm. So what here, you will see we have confirm email. Email confirm is false. Now let's click on this button. So do you want to confirm? Click on this button. Now email is confirmed. Let's go back. Now this is false. So let's refresh it and see. It's going to turn to true. Okay. So we have this field, and that's our password hash and everything filled over here. Okay. Now let's try to log in. So log in. And here let's provide our email and our password. That's the admin at 123. Now let's log in and see. So once we get logged in, let's see what's going to happen. Okay, so it is now authorizing, and let's see if it's going to work. Good. So hello, welcome. Now you can see hello, we have an email over there and the logout. So we can log this one out, and you're going to log in again. So you can see you are logged out. Now let's log in again. So let's log in. So admin at 1 2 3. Now let's log in. Okay, so we are logged in. Now right click on this and go to inspect element, and now let's see if this is going to generate a bearer token for us. So click on network. Okay, now let's click on this and now click on fetch data, where we're going to have a controller call. So click on this. Now go to the header. Now you can see with header, you see we have authorization, that's the bearer token, and we have an cookie over here. So this is a token that was generated and set through the header of a request. So you can see we have the bearer token over here. So it means we are now authenticated. Okay, now let's check application. So click on this and go to applications, and let's see with this. So session storage. Now you can see we have a session storage over here, but let's see if we're gonna have. So as you can see, we have our OI user, and that is session storage. You can see we have ID token. So this is the token that we requested. Okay, so this token is going to send through the header when we make an HTTP request, and that's what we're going to use to authenticate us. So now that is the simplest way to perform an authentication using the identity or individual account. Now in the next video, I'm going to talk about the same thing applies to this. That's the Blazor Server app. So if you want to use Blazor Server app, you can just put the same steps and grab what we are doing here. Okay, so actually the same steps apply to the Blazor Server app. So I'm not sure I'm gonna do a video for this Blazor Server app because it's the same thing. You just have to create a new project, then you select an individual account, and this is the whole thing that you're gonna do. But let's see if we're gonna have a video on that, okay, in the next video, right? So thank you guys for watching. I believe this is clear. Now the next video we're going to talk about how do you assign roles, or that's a role-based authentication or role-based authorization. So how do you authorize a person when the person is being authenticated? How do you allow the user to see what he needs to see or not? That is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what I'm doing, you can just give me a thumbs up and comment in case you have any issue as well. And I'm going to put a link in the description. You can just click on that to GitHub and grab the source code for free. And maybe if you want to check what you've done, it is possible. Thank you so much. I'm going to catch you up in the next video.